thing is like I'd gotten a directive from the president at Dick Asher that you never are supposed to release a single until the album is finished, you know, until you have the album in-house. 'Cause sometimes a lot of the other departments, a lot of A&R people, they released the single, and then the single would explode, but the album wasn't finished, you know, and so they didn't have an album to sell, or sometimes the album was, you know, just held, so they were losing sales, you know, because basically singles are just a promotional for the album. So he said, do not release any singles until you have the finished master of the album, you know, in your hands. You know. So that was the directive. And but when we were finishing the record, about to finish, you know, and Quincy said, well, listen, Larkin, I'd like to get this record out, you know, in time to take advantage of, you know, the Christmas opportunity, you know, to have it happening by that time. So, you know, why don't we go ahead and put out the single, you know? And I said, well, are you sure? He said, well, don't worry about it. You know, it's going to be finished, and it was right, you know, so we released, I went ahead and I took the chance, you know, and I put out, you know, The Girl Is Mine, you know. That was the first single off that album. Because we had to do that because there was a backlash, you know, at this time against black music, you know, because the radio stations had stopped refusing to play black music. They felt that there was too much, you know, penetration of disco on their radio stations, too much women's lib in the music, you know, I Will Survive and all that stuff. So they had a rebellion against playing black music. And I don't know if you know that one time they had it I think in Wrigley Field, a couple of radio stations had taken all these disco records and radio and singles and stuff like that, and emptied them on the field in the baseball stadium, and then took what's those big rollers, you know, construction rollers, and rolled over all the disco records and crushed them and everything, you know. And so they had just basically refused to stop playing black music on pop radio.
Jones and Jackson were determined to make a rock song that would appeal to all tastes, and spent weeks looking for a suitable guitarist for the song Beat It.
Twilight Night, that's what Thriller was called, Twilight. Yeah. And they wanted something a little edgier and harder, and they came up with Thriller.
Eventually, they found Van Halen of the rock band Van Halen.
So that's what we were up against. So that's why we released, you know, the song with, because, you know, Sexual Healing had a hard time crossing up. I mean, they, even our pop department, even our white department didn't want to cross that record over, but the record was so big, you know, they couldn't stop it, you know. So we released that record, and I went over to hear the final mix of the album and basically, you know, get, you know, the situation, the masters of the completed album. And it didn't sound anything like some of the songs that I'd heard before when they had done the rough mixes. And the first mix, it's just absolutely horrible. I mean, it lost a lot of the brightness, the clarity, the rhythm, you know, it was just not there, you know. So Quincy said, no, I can't give you this record. We got to do this all over again. You know, we got to send this. I got to remix all of these songs all over again. And I'm saying, oh my God. I said, you know, their albums, the singles out, you know, and if the single really takes off, and he said, don't worry about it. I get it remixed, and, you know, I'll get it back over to you in you know, I think 10 days or something like that. You know, I already this time I did not have the master in time to meet the release schedule, so it was kind of nerve-wracking, you know, to see. But you know, he finished it.
Thriller became the #1 best-selling album in history, staying on top of the charts for 33 weeks. Fascinating information surfaced in 1988. Jackson released his first autobiography, Moonwalk, which took 4 years to complete and sold 200,000 copies. Jackson told of his childhood, his experiences in the Jackson 5, and the abuse he suffered as a child. He also spoke of his plastic surgery, saying he had 2 rhinoplastic surgeries and a surgical creation of the cleft in his chin. In the book, he attributed the change in the structure of his face to puberty, weight loss, a strict vegetarian diet, a change in hairstyle, and stage lighting. Moonwalk reached the top position of the New York Times bestseller list. The musician then released a film called Moonwalker, which featured live footage, music videos, and a feature film that starred Jackson and Joe Pesci. Moonwalker debuted atop the Billboard Top Music Video cassette chart, staying there for 22 weeks. It was eventually knocked off the top spot by Michael Jackson. The legend continues.
It's written in the stars.
And Michael was a workaholic as a child, kind of a disciplinarian that most kids don't have. You know, it's very rare because when the brothers were on break and it was time to come back in, Michael would be on time, you know. And he would tell some of the people that worked with him, the security and the assistants, tell my brothers, you know, it's time to come back in. And he's the littlest one in the group, but he's telling his older brothers, come on in, we got work to do.
The ideas from the songs I get, I've always said that I don't write my own songs because I feel I'm just a source, I'm just a tunnel, a tube through which they come. I feel somewhere in space they've all been written before. I mean, Billie Jean and Beat It and all those songs have been up there somewhere. It just came through to me. That's how I really feel. So I even though I did it, I just can't always take credit. It's like any great artist, I guess, Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, he's doing it, but it's some other higher force that's making it happen.
So we drove down from Oakland, we cut the tracks, and we went over to the house on Havenhurst. And when I met Michael, he was in their little studio rehearsing and recording some music, and the other boys were out playing basketball. So we were out playing basketball with the guys, and he just basically, it was a Sunday, and every Sunday a choreographer would come, and he and LaToya would dance with the choreographer for like hours.
Michael Jackson's musical legacy will be shaped by one unknown factor. At the time of his death, Jackson was sitting on so much unreleased music that fans may experience more new material from him now that he's gone than in recent years.
I think Michael has this draw that people are attracted to him, that he creates a certain type of excitement that only a few people have been able to generate. He has an authenticity with his performances that he really likes performing. He really loves it. And when he's in the studio, he dances while he's recording. You know, when he's singing PYT, I mean, he's in the studio jamming, because that's why we were able to relate to him, because we can feel how much he loved to perform. We can feel how much he loved that song that he was singing. We can feel his happiness and his joy when he was singing. And that's what made him great. And also, Michael is a remarkable artist. He can draw. Oh my gosh, he is just one ball of talent. I remember in an earlier interview, one of the brothers saying that, dang, Michael's so good and he doesn't even practice. And that was with basketball.
Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
His reputation and dignity suffered as a result of 2 highly controversial legal cases against him. The first in 1994, and the second in 2003. In 1994, Jackson was accused of child sexual abuse by a 13-year-old child named Jordan Chandler and his father, Evan Chandler. The friendship between Jackson and Chandler broke down. Some Sometime afterwards, Evan Chandler was tape recorded saying, amongst other things, "If I go through with this, I'll win big time."
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. They will be destroyed.
An official investigation began with Jordan Chandler's mother adamant that there was no wrongdoing on Jackson's part. Neverland Ranch was searched. Multiple children and family members denied that he was a pedophile. Jackson agreed to a 25-minute humiliating strip search conducted at his own ranch.
Back, his home is here. His ranch above Santa Barbara is a place he loves. He doesn't intend to desert the United States.
Jackson made an emotional public statement on the events.
I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse the examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer. And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it. I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
Jackson began to take painkillers, Valium and Ativan, to help him cope with chronic pain, a consequence to an accident involving the collapse of stage ringing during a dangerous tour, and for joint inflammation from lupus. Jackson started taking Xanax for panic attacks and stress, stemming from the allegations made against him, child abuse. The stress of the allegations also caused Jackson to stop eating, and he lost a significant amount of weight. With his health in decline, Jackson's friends and legal advisors took over his defense and finances. They called on him to settle the allegations out of court, believing that he could not endure a lengthy trial. Tabloid reactions to the allegations put Jackson in an unfavorable light. Complaints about the coverage and media included everything from bias against Jackson, accepting stories of alleged criminal activity for money, to accepting confidential leaked material from the police investigation in return for money paid. On January 1st, 1994, Jackson settled with the Chandler family and their legal team out of court in a civil lawsuit for $22 million. After the settlement, Jordan Chandler refused to continue with police regarding criminal proceedings. Jackson was never charged, and the state closed its criminal investigation, citing lack of evidence. In 2003, Jackson was charged with 7 counts of sexual abuse and 2 counts of administering an intoxicating agent in order to commit that felony. All charges involved the same boy.
my heroes, one of my legends, one of my role models. Just hold your head, man. And my prayers go out. Holla.
I made only this one doll for Michael Jackson.
Michael, stay up. You know, we're behind you, and leave the boys alone. Stay away from them. Don't be close to them. We love you, though, and we're behind you.
With Michael, when you have 9 children in a 2-bedroom home, you're sharing beds. You know, you are sharing beds. Kids are going to bed, and that you have to have discipline. And Joe and Catherine were very smart to have discipline, because you cannot have chaos with that many people roaming around a little 2-bedroom house. So with Michael in sleeping arrangements, it was nothing. Plus, they shared hotel rooms. They shared beds in hotel rooms, and that's what people don't understand. With Michael, the bed wasn't about sex. It was about going to sleep or watching TV or having pillow fights.
So I don't think it's really about him. It's bigger than that. I believe it's really politics behind that.
We're saying, hey, thanking Michael Jackson for years and years of great, great music.
Jackson denied the sexual abuse allegations, saying that the sleepovers were in no way sexual in nature. The People versus Jackson trial began in Santa Maria, California in 2005, 2 years after Jackson was originally charged.
When people talk about Michael admitted that he shared his bed with children, what happened was, as someone that was in the courtroom, what happened was Michael would be in the bed, they would watch TV, they'd fall asleep. Once they fell asleep, Michael would make a cot on the floor with sleeping bags and a whole bunch of blankets, and he would leave the kids in his bed, and he'd go sleep on the floor.
During this period, the singer suffered from stress-related illnesses and severe weight loss that would alter his appearance. The trial lasted 5 months until the end of May 2005. He was acquitted on all counts. The superstar's long relationship with the African-American community was as controversial as his ever-changing skin color and the DNA of his children. He is one of our heroes, rap artist and music impresario Sean Diddy Combs. As African-Americans, we are not going to let everybody beat him up. But many black Americans still feel ambivalent about Jackson's legacy of plastic surgery excesses, drug addiction, and superstardom.
Producer of Soul Train, Mr. Don Cornelius, Michael being as gracious as ever.
When Jackson was exonerated on molestation charges, many in the African-American community demonstrated forgiveness. On his blog, Earl Ofari Hutchinson suggested that Jackson's charitable side be his legacy. According to the Chronicle of Philanthropy, the star supported dozens of charities, including USA for Africa, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. In the year 2000, he was listed in the Guinness World Records for most charities supported by a pop star, 39. He also donated $1.5 million in a settlement from Pepsi for injuries he sustained filming a commercial to the Burn Center at Rothman Hospital in Southern California.
I call on them when I need them because they have so much to offer, and this is nothing new. As I said before, Michael's been doing this for years, my family's been doing this for years. We try to instill the right messages through our songs because when people hear things, it plays a great deal on their mind, and so we have to say the right things in our lyrics. We have to say the right things in our songs and portray the right messages in our videos and stuff, and it's so important. So what we've tried to do with Heal the World, with Earth Song, with Man in the Mirror and all these things is sending out a message saying if you want the world to change, look at yourself first, then make that change.
Michael Jackson had a very passionate and special relationship with his fans. They always supported him, ignoring the relentless 15-year campaign the mass media seemed to wage against him. The fans took his side during his trials and all the way to the much too public personal and professional tribulations. Early on, much of his life turned into mystic events for his followers, from dancers to ordinary grandmas and fans everywhere in the world. After his passing, they felt as if they'd lost a relative. Their passion and spiritual devotion was apparent right after his death at all locations associated with his life. At the home he rented in LA, at the hospital where he died, at his childhood home, at Forest Lawn Cemetery, and at his memorial at the Staples Sports Arena in downtown Los Angeles. July 7th, 2009 was a day when people around the world stopped their life to remember Michael Jackson's life. A public memorial service was held at the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles.